You're listening to the Biz Babes with Soul podcast with your host, Melody Spencer, a show where female entrepreneurs get radically honest about life and business. Today's episode is sponsored by Swiftly Social Digital Marketing. Swiftly Social helps people create a heart-centered digital marketing and Facebook ads strategy that gets you results. For a free video tutorial on how to grow your Facebook following by 10,000 or more, visit swiftly.social.com.
Happy 2019. I had intended to put out a 2018-2019 Outlook recap episode, and I even recorded it, and then I got sick. So you guys know how that is. So I did not put that out, so this is the first episode of 2019. I'm so excited for you to hear my interview with Dr. Kendra. So, the one thing you will notice is that the sound quality on my end is kind of crappy in this episode. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why. I have tried all my editing MacGyver tips and tricks, and it has not worked. So, I am apologizing here and now for the weird tinny sound that you will get on my part. So, I apologize. Hopefully it won't happen again. I've tried my best, but I hope you still enjoy this interview. I sure did. Kendra is so interesting, and her book is so good. All right, I hope you guys have a great start to your 2019, and I cannot wait to see how we grow together. All right, sending you guys all the love. Enjoy! Hey guys, welcome to the Biz Babes with Soul podcast. I'm your host, Melody Spencer, and I'm super excited to have a really interesting guest today. Her name is Dr. Kendra Segura, and she is an OBGYN and also a co-author of a new book all about women in medicine and how you can kind of get through that world as a woman, which is really interesting. It's called The Chronicles of Women in White Coats, and I think it's really going to bust through some misconceptions and some ideas, and I'm just really excited to talk to Kendra, so welcome.
Thank you, Melanie, for having me on your show. And like I said, I was excited when I first heard about your show, Biz Babes and Soul. Given that, you know, there's a whole women movement going on, I think women are taking over the world, and we're getting into business and we're getting busier. It just seems like, you know, the more now that doors are opening wide for us, and with this book that I co-author, The Chronicles of Women in White Coats, it talks about women busting through the doors of medicine. And medicine 50 years ago traditionally had more men. And especially in the surgical specialties, and now doctors are venturing out and doing business as well. And so I think that this book is with 20 women physicians, all different races, different specialties, with a different story. But the one thing that we all have in common is that thread of belief. And I think to be a biz babe and to be a successful one, you have to believe in yourself. So, you know what I mean? So if I would have had this book, it's like 20 mentors, and I could see that people fail, people recover, there's hardships, there's relationship issues, there's sickness. You know, like women are going through a lot, but these women are busting down the doors anyway. You know, this is like 20 mentors, you know, and to me, medicine and business, they go together. That's like because medicine is a business, and being a woman, definitely we have to navigate it differently. So that's why I really was excited to be on your show. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's back up and tell people how you kind of decided to get into medicine, specifically being OBGYN and all that, and what that's kind of looked like for you in terms of being a woman in medicine, because that's kind of, it's becoming more of a thing, but, you know, several years ago it wasn't.
Yeah. So for me, I was a non-traditional medical student, as they say, meaning that I went into medicine older because I did a career change. I had a career, like a early midlife crisis. At age 25, I was, working for the Los Angeles County Health Department. I was an epidemiologist, statistician, and I was working with physicians, and it was great. My boss was a physician herself, and it's just the thought really never occurred to me to be a physician. It never occurred to me. But when I was exposed to my coworkers or, my superiors, how they were physicians, and I was working side by side, their encouragement and me being exposed and getting that confidence that I possibly too can be a physician if I chose to. So that was a huge decision at 25, 26 to say, wait a minute, I'm going to change directions completely, because at that time I was considering getting my doctorate while, continuing to work, getting married, having children, just the traditional way. And then here I go getting this thought in my head that maybe I can go and I can be a doctor. And the initial plan was to be an infectious disease doctor. So the whole OBGYN thing, sometimes I drive in my car and I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm an OBGYN, because that was the last thing I wanted to do. So I find that kind of funny. It's like a joke between me and God,
Yeah. So what made you why did you end up picking OBGYN? I'm always interested in why that is.
Well, because so first it was a huge decision. It's a burden on your family to just change directions and go on to higher education. Not only higher education, but we're talking about medical school, then we're talking about residency training, then we're talking about, being an attending. So right now I've been 3 years out. So it's a huge financial burden on everyone, and it's a huge sacrifice. And like I said, I went into it a little older. So it's kind of like, I didn't have it in my head when I was a child to be a physician. When I did ever think about it, when you're in school, you have career day, you always kind of snickered at, ew, like OBGYN, looking at vaginas, ew, So, and then it's your exposure. Like I was exposed and interested in epidemiology, which is the study of disease. So my interest was a disease itself. So I kind of figured that it made sense. I did a crazy thing, my mom, my dad, everyone was like, are you sure you want to do this? Because it was kind of like, what? Like, are you serious? And so, then once I delivered my first baby as a medical student, that changed everything. And then, I thought that high of bringing life into the world would be over, once you do your second, third, fourth. But for me, I get excited every time, like it's my first time doing a delivery, and sometimes I make a joke about it, and when I'm there with the patients and the family and, they're having their first baby, I am just as excited. And also the thought of fixing a problem, so kind of like getting to know myself that, I don't like I'm not interested in chronic disease as much as something that can be fixed. So if you're having heavy bleeding, I take out your uterus. If you're pregnant, no one stays pregnant forever. And boy, am I happy that I got into this field, because Melody, I learn just as much from my patients as they do from me. Because I see women from all walks of life and all ages. So I kind of know what to expect when I go through menopause. You know what I mean? Like, they're teaching me just as much as I'm teaching them my expertise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never thought about that. I'm sure on the flip side, it's also you see some really hard cases too. It's not just all joy. There's also sadness, which I think would be the hard thing for me if I was a physician, like just seeing all the horrible things people can go through.
Well, definitely. And that is the second victim syndrome. A lot of people don't know about that, but a lot of doctors, and myself included, we go through the second victim, delivering a full-term baby that's, that's passed away, that's, stillbirth. I mean, that is, that's when I think about, why did I do this? Telling a woman, me having to tell a woman she has cancer. I'm thinking, why do I do this? Something goes, a complication in the operating room, patients do die. You know what I mean? Surgery is no joke. And so I really always stress to a woman when she says, I want a hysterectomy, my friends had it, they're living their best life, they can fit into their genes, their sex life is better. I want a hysterectomy, Dr. Segura. You get that a lot because everything's on YouTube now. You can Google all the procedures, but it's major surgery, and I try to remind women that it's not like shopping at Bloomingdale's, coming in and you're picking a shirt, you can return it if you don't like it. This is major surgery. And with major surgery, even minor surgery, it comes with risk and complications, and it doesn't matter at whose hands. So it could be the best surgeon in the world. It doesn't matter. Some situations, the anatomy, you're going to get a complication. So that's hard. And for me as a junior attending, because I'm less than 7 years in, my first year out, that was very, very taxing on me. So, so I kind of see the other side when you get a lot of oncology doctors, how they seem kind of cold or they seem kind of distant. Well, you have to, because if you take it all in, you can't go back in the OR, and somebody has to operate. Somebody has to keep going and help people. And along the way, as doctors, you feel that sometimes you are doing harm, but you just got to get back in there. So definitely as a woman, I think women, we take it in, we just take it in more because it's just our nature. It's our nature. And balancing that, that's tough. That's something that you have to learn to kind of live with. And if you quit, then it's kind of like, well, who's going to do it?
Yeah. So how do you decompress and compartmentalize all of the good and the bad?
Well, this is my 3rd year as an attending, and I've gotten better. A good support system. I have a good husband, supports me, and colleagues. It's really the group of colleagues, physicians supporting each other that really helps you get through it, because there's just the way medicine is. If you miss something or a patient dies or they have cancer and you're thinking, I should have did this, I should have did that, we blame ourselves. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. I could have did this, I could have did that. So I decompress by finally, when I'm leaving the hospital, I try to leave the hospital, and it's kind of hard for surgeons because sometimes you're worried about the patient you operated on, but just knowing that you did your best. I think every time, staying abreast the new technology, staying current, with your board certifications, making sure that you're a master at your craft. And I think when you walk out of there and you did your best, and I explain to the patients that, hey, things do happen. I mean, and that's why there's a consent form, but you have to outweigh the risk and the benefits. And sometimes, even after a complication, a woman gets through it, she's feeling better later on. So that's how I kind of come to grips with it. And then doing media medicine has been a way for me to decompress, educating women that don't go to the doctor, being on your podcast. I know that a lot of people are thinking, wait a minute, this is supposed to be about business and how to be successful. But I want to talk to your audience because it's the ambitious woman who is running her own business, in which when you run your own business, there is no off days. And so you can't forget yourself. You cannot forget yourself. And so, I was excited to be on here to talk to your audience and let them know that preventative care is very important. Self-care is very important. And I see a lot of women in my office that are entrepreneurs. And, by the time they see me, it's like, they have cancer, endometrial cancer. They've had, heart attacks and strokes and stuff because they're waiting too late, or they didn't get their screening, their colonoscopies, and they have colorectal cancer. So I see it, and I just know and even physicians ourselves, we feel like we go to the doctor because we're at the hospital every day, but we're not there for ourselves. So I see the importance of really letting the busy woman know that, hey, wait a minute, everything has to wait. You need to go get your pap smear. You need to get your mammogram.
Yeah.
You need to you're having some uncontrolled bleeding. Your menstrual cycles are running long. I mean, you need to go get that checked out, So I think it's really important on your platform, Melody, that, that you have someone like me, a health educator, to say stop out of your busy day, because you can't be successful if you're sick.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know that from, from both personal experience and from friends, that we as entrepreneurs work ourselves to death. We stay up all night, we burn the candle at both ends, and we're exhausted because we feel like we have to hustle all the time.
Yes.
And that's just too much. It's too much for one person. Ladies, we got to take care of ourselves, both mind, body, and soul.
Yes, definitely. And I think, calling an end time, like my mission, because I come from public health, because, that's my background of educating people. That's my passion. It gets taxing because you want to, hustle and reach as many people, and I'm realizing that, I don't need to be on a health podcast, people tuning in. I need to be on, different platforms where a woman isn't even thinking about her health, So the people that come to see me in the office, the people that I see in the hospital, they're good because they're coming to the doctor. But it's those that aren't that kind of led me to go online and to reach people that way. And that, Melanie, has been a very rewarding experience, because a lot of us don't even know that it's a problem, because as much as we talk, we have your best friend, you have your moms, your grandmothers, there's a lot of things that we don't talk about. We just keep to ourselves. And I know this because I'm the OBGYN. So I get into everybody's business. And so that's when I realized there is a need to make the world smaller and to kind of get those women that are busy, get them into the hospital, get them into the office, and they listen to your podcast, because we all want to be successful. So, that's why I joined up with the group in co-authoring the Chronicles of Women in White Coats. Why? Because I want women to know to go for it, to go for it. It's going to be hardships. You're not the only one that fails. And I think it's the same with business. You're going to do things. You're going to fail. But when you hear 20 different stories from 20 different women around, different backgrounds, foreigners, people from the U.S., everyone in a different discipline, everyone in a different situation. Some are single, some are married, some are divorced, with kids, no kids. You kind of get strength from it. It's a very inspiring book, because you're like, you know what? She has the same problems I do, and she can do it. And so, and I think that's the same thing with business, is that we're just so afraid to kind of step outside of our comfort zone. And so for my career change, Melody, I have to tell you, that was the most gut-wrenching decision, one of the most gut-wrenching decisions that I ever had to make.
But you were so brave to step up and say that I can change my direction and I can do it, without having to ask anyone's permission, which is amazing. But
I try to think about, a lot of entrepreneurs, that I talk to, I ask them, like, how did you get into it? And I think about myself and how, I look back at my 26-year-old self and I'm like, wow, she's so brave. Like, would I be able to do something like that today? And I think not. But I had to go back in my mind and ask myself, what was I going through mentally at the time? And for me, it was, I fell sick. I got sick. And when I got sick, that really was a huge wake-up call of my mortality. That, any one of us can die at any time, and you only have one life. So why not go on an adventure?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when I talk to other people, you know, what made you change your career? You know, it's either they got fired, you know, they got sick from the stress of their job, and, you know, something pivotal happens and they put that energy into their own business. You know, not all, but for most people, when they do a career change, I'm always interested. Like, how did you become so successful doing this? And, you know, I got tired of having bad bosses. I got tired of being stressed, not seeing my kids being worked to death. You know, so it's something pivotal that happens in your life. And for me, it was realizing that, you know, hey, I got one life, you know, why not make it an adventure? And indeed, it has been an adventure.
Yeah. So what has it been like to be a female physician? Have you experienced sexism? Has it been very, you know, having to break that ceiling? Is there lots of competition? Like, what does that look like for you?
Definitely. And that's a touchy subject, Melanie. Like, a lot of us, you know, we don't talk about it, you know, and I think that's why the Chronicles of Women in White Coats will blow you away. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be in the healthcare field at all. Just being a woman in corporate America. I mean, just even being a housewife. Okay. You just being a woman, you just don't realize that we all go through it. You know, there's a lot of sexism. There's a lot of racism. There's a lot of stereotypes. And it goes both ways, from patients and from doctors and colleagues and nurses. And me reading this book, I was blown away. And it takes courage to admit that, you know what, I've been sexually harassed. I've been told that I couldn't be a surgeon, you know, breaking into an all boys club, you know, those things are tough. And even patients, you know, their old way of thinking, oh, you know, a male physician is a better surgeon. You know, I mean, these types of things, you know, that you have to kind of, you know, as a physician, break down those barriers of even just a society way of thinking. And I think that's why, like right now, you know, you got the Me Too movement going on, and you got women empowerment going on, because what's happening is, you know, now with OBGYN, it's a 60-40%, 60% women and 40% men, because now women are realizing, you know what, I feel more comfortable with a woman, because a lot of the sicknesses and the ailments that women have, it starts from your mind. And women just don't feel comfortable talking to the opposite sex about what's really going on. So I hear it all. I hear it from, you know, my husband cheated. I'm running ragged with the kids. I've been having heavy bleeding for 5-6 years, and I'm now just coming to see you. You know, so the comfort level, and I really want to kind of ride that wave. So the women in white coats, you know, we want to ride that wave in, because a lot of the young girls that I talk to in the office, you know, when I ask them what they want to be, they won't say doctor. They'll say things like nurse, physician's assistant, which is nothing wrong with that. So let's be clear. But I just find it interesting that most of them, barely anyone says, I want to be a doctor. You know? And so why is that? You know, I asked myself, you know, and I never thought about it, being a doctor, you know, like so it's kind of like, I think it just goes with society. It goes with just our thinking as women. And we don't go for it, and we need to go for it. And I'm so happy that I think I heard recently on the news that like there's tons of women entrepreneurs, you know, that are having successful business. So we're going for it, and we can. And I think that having mentors, having a podcast like this, Melanie, is very priceless, because this is a place where we can get mentorship. And we can break into the old boys club and get into business, because even women in business negotiating, you know, you know, it could be intimidating, you know, demanding, you know, a price for your service. That's intimidating, right?
Oh yeah, I've experienced that so much. It always comes back for me to worthiness. Like, as a woman, do I feel worthy of that price? Do I feel like I have the quote unquote balls to stand up and quote those prices to a man or to someone else with confidence like he would. It's just a whole episode on its own.
Yeah, but in medicine, still, even now that I told you, we're making a lot of progress. So I'm not all negative. I see the progress, but still the pay, is still less for a woman than a man. So, because a man isn't going to come into this job, because with medicine, you get paid for your years of experience. And it just shows you when a man comes into his job, he's going to demand to start at this price because he has this experience. Where women, we might ask, but it's declined for us, So I think it all boils down to confidence, self-esteem, and mindset. And that's why, I wish that I would have had a book like this to read back when I was growing up, because a lot, it's 20 mentors telling you that, hey, I didn't have a great childhood. Hey, while I was working, my husband cheated on me. Hey, I got sick. I got diagnosed with this illness and I got over it and I conquered it, and I'm still, reaching for my dreams. So it's, and I think that's why women empowerment, after you're empowered, you're going to start asking what you're worth, because, it does never hurt to, I think a lot of us don't even ask. That's the problem. And I find if you just ask, you never know what you're going to get. And so that comes from your mindset, and it comes from self-esteem. And that's why I love mentoring. I mentor pre-meds. I mentor people thinking about getting into a career change, because I want to take that anguish. Melody, when I say that it was anguish, it was, going against, my close family and friends to do this. I want to take my experience and I want to share that, because I don't want anybody to go through that. If I could help someone navigate and give them the confidence, because you might fail, but you know what? No one really regrets what they, have done. You regret more of the things that you didn't do, the things that you let go, that you could have tried, but you didn't. Because when you do something and you fail, you have a story to it. There's a story and it ended. But if you have never jumped off that cliff to see maybe that you won't die to your death, maybe you'll land on a cloud, hit the stars, go to the sun, So I'm seeing it, and myself branching out into business, it takes confidence and belief in yourself. It's amazing. So my hat goes off to all entrepreneurs, definitely. Sure. All women in medicine, entrepreneurs. It takes so much self-confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been such a fun interview. Thank you so much for being here, Kendra. And tell us again where we can get your book if anyone wants to read it.
Oh, perfect. So it's definitely, we're an Amazon bestseller. So if you guys could, your audience could help us keep the movement going, they can go to Amazon, type in The Chronicles of Women in White Coats, or they can go to my website. I'm on Instagram. That's my main site where I can be reached for any questions, even if your audience wants to run things by me, as far as their health. The handle is at Dr. Kendra MD. And that's my Instagram handle. And that's also my Facebook handle. And there on my Instagram, there's a link right to the book. And I usually respond to people within 48 hours because, again, my passion is prevention and health education and mentorship. So The Chronicles of Women in White Coats, if people forget, at Dr. Kendra MD, go to Amazon.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kendra. And this has been such a really interesting, fun interview. And I hope that everybody else gets as much out of it as I did. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Melanie. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for listening, guys. Until next time. Bye. Thank you for joining me for the Biz Babes with Soul podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. To learn more about me, Melody Spencer, and the show, please visit swiftlysocial.com.